Kind of one of the crazier nights in Contender Series history, right? With all the different storylines here.
Yeah. Horrible ref stoppage. I mean, when's the last time you saw one that bad? I mean, that was pretty fucking bad. The horrible fight. I mean, I could count. I think the first episode of last season, I think I was pretty pissed off about that first episode. Couldn't tell you specifically which fights were bad or whatever, but yeah, that was right up there with as bad as it gets.
So going back there, when you're like I said, kind of a weird episode. Did you know, like, oh, we're going 5, definitely, we're going all 5 here? Or did you kind of make that up as you were going?
Yeah, I know as soon as the fight's over. I mean, I write all these notes and during the fights, and I had written the notes on that fight going into the 3rd round. I could just tell, and that kid from South Africa was a highly touted prospect. You never know. Bad night, We all have them. Sometimes you didn't sleep right, or you just can't get off, or got exhausted because he took almost the whole 5 minutes on a graze. Which I can't comment on that. Believe me, any guy who, being a guy, so you just got to get hit the right way, and anything is possible. But that guy looked off all night, and he probably just had a bad night. Who knows? But that's how it goes. The other kid stepped up, took it on short notice. After fighting heavyweight 2 weeks before that, now he's at 186. He looks like he should be 170. Kid's a dog. Why not give him the opportunity, give him the shot? He came here and did what he's supposed to do.
It would be interesting. I mean, like you said, you think he should make 170. He said, we'll go put. What if you find out that you go to the PI and they're like, nah, man, he's a middleweight. He can't.
Then he fights at 185, yeah. Yeah, then he fights at 185. But listen, I'm pretty good at looking at guys and saying, I mean, did you see the size difference between those two? I mean, that guy was a monster compared to him. And, he won all 3 rounds.
Yeah. Finished with a huge finish, obviously spectacular night. I guess, what did you think of Brinchton's performance?
Yeah, he looked incredible. I mean, he was screaming at me in the back there because I was talking to the other kid saying, we'll bring you back. You got screwed. We'll make this right by you. And he was screaming at me. And, wow. And those guys were banging, too. They were going at it. It was a great fight.
You mentioned the early stoppage, like you mentioned. So any hesitation? I mean, I think I was going to ask you, would you bring the other guy back? But you already announced you're going to bring the other guy back. So I guess when you see that happen, knowing we didn't even really get to see the fight play out, is that a tough call either way for you?
The stakes are so high here on Tuesday nights, so high. And to come in with an 8-1 record and then go out off a referee's mistake. And, I don't know what the referee saw or what he thought or whatever, but it was a really bad stoppage. I mean, we have the luxury of replay and everything else. 2 out of the 3 punches he threw after didn't even land. Guy was, when you go down, you're still up on your hands and trying to get up. It was a bad stoppage. So Ramon will get another shot.
Very cool. I did want to ask you about Gene Silva in the second fight. Obviously looked spectacular, but couldn't get the fight finished. And then I almost wondered if kind of the interesting character that he was in there with the barking and the showboating might upset you a little bit, or you might not like the guy because of that.
No, if there's too much of that stuff, I don't like it. If you're doing too much of that stuff and not fighting, that guy was doing it. It was almost like, it reminded me of a guy, he's only 26, but the other kid's only 21. He had a little bit more of that experience and kind of getting in his head, more gamemanship than showing off, because he was doing serious damage. Elbows and kicks and punches, and kept moving forward. Didn't finish the fight, but definitely tried to finish the fight. Throw everything with bad intentions, and none of that bothered me. Hand speed was unbelievable.
Yeah, very entertaining. Awesome. Well, I want to ask you a couple outside of tonight as well. We got the big UFC 293, obviously, this weekend. A lot of talk coming this weekend. Israel Adesanya, is he the greatest middleweight of all time? Obviously, Anderson Silva, pretty amazing. Where do you stand on that? And, I mean, does this weekend help solidify any of that argument?
Yeah, well, one of the things, it's hard to talk about that stuff until a guy's done with his career. The one thing that about Israel, and I say it all the time, he always wants to fight. As soon as the fight's over, a lot of these guys take their time. Some guys fight twice, once a year. This kid, as soon as the fight is over, he's already in the back telling Hunter what he wants next, where he wants to go next, and who he wants to fight next, and he wants to fight in 3 months. Listen, he's pushing, he's creating a serious legacy for himself. He's actually starting to, after Strickland, he's almost cleaned out the division.
Yeah. Do you, obviously we initially thought this would be the Dricus-Duplessis fight. Dricus couldn't take the fight. Do you look at him as still the #1 contender, like winner, or, whoever comes out of this weekend, that Dricus would be next?
You know how much I love when guys turn down fights. I don't know. We'll see what happens on Saturday, and then we'll go from there.
Nice. Last couple, I did want to ask you about Paris. The crowd on TV seemed like it was one of the most insane atmospheres ever. What can you say about?
It's true. I mean, it was incredible. Whether you were there live or on television, you felt it. You could tell it was electric. And who would have thought that France would become such a great experience to see live? But the energy, the chants during the fights, and they were saying, like, from the first fight of the night, the place was like 95% full the first fight of the night. So, awesome.
Nice.
And the gate, I mean, we had the record. The NBA came in and beat us. Then we came back and beat the NBA. So, good shit.
Very cool. The last one I wanted to ask you about Paris. Manon Fiorot had a big win there over Rose Namajunas. Now the discussion is Manon or Aaron Blanchfield kind of the leader as far as #1 contender goes? Still got a title fight to play out in a couple weeks anyway.
Yep.
But who do you see a #1 contender out of those two?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you're right. I mean, both coming off big wins. So we'll see. We'll see how it's a great position for us to be in.
Hi, Dana.
Hi. Gotcha.
Got it. All right. I'm just curious. We were just talking about Fiorot. I was wondering if you could talk to me about Rose. What's next for Rose? Do you feel like she should stay at flyweight? Should she go back to strawweight? What are your thoughts there?
Rose is going to drive here from Denver and have dinner with me. We're going to get together and have dinner and talk and see what's next and hang out.
Awesome. There was also some news out of Australia that Sean Strickland punched a fan. He says he did it. Are you guys keeping an extra eye on him? Are you worried about him wandering around there?
Do you know where the news came from that he punched a fan?
From him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a beauty. He played it up more than whatever it was jokingly, and the fan and him are cool, and so. Yeah,
So
but this, I going into this, I knew what this week was going to be like. And yes, we're prepared for it, and yes, we have people around him now, so he won't be punching people in the stomach anymore. For fun or not for fun.
I was wondering if you could comment on Conor getting his black belt yesterday.
Oh shit! I didn't even know that. That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, I didn't know. No.
That's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Dana.
Yep.
I wanted to go back to that second fight with Kevin. You said that you were very impressed by him. Does he go back to the regional scene, win a couple?
Yeah. He's young. He's 21 years old. He's a kid that, I was talking last week about the kid that was too young. But this kid, if he would have won this fight tonight, I probably would have signed him. But what he needs to do is, again, it's a whole different ballgame when you get here. Sometimes shit flies out the window. Sometimes you don't feel right. The nerves, the whatever it might be. But he looked very one-dimensional tonight. That one dimension was pretty badass, tough, durable, hard puncher. Got hit with fucking everything tonight and stood in front of him. Threw no leg kicks. I mean, he should have started chopping leg kicks from the first round. Just a lot of things that he could round up his game more. And once you give, this kid's 21. Imagine what he's going to look like when he's 23. He just, he's got to tweak some things. But that's completely normal for a 21-year-old kid.
So do you see him kind of, going back in the regional scene and then coming straight to the UFC or?
Oh, I have no idea. But the reality is this. In all the times that you've ever watched the Contender Series, where have you seen me start with the guy who lost before I talked about the guy who won and the guy that we're actually bringing in? So I truly believe that this kid, has a big future in the sport. You know, I don't know his training situation. I don't know what happened with him tonight. Is he one-dimensional? Did he just freeze up tonight? I don't know any of these questions. Only him and his team know that. But my assessment of tonight, that's what I saw.
Main event winner was a plus 500 underdog. Beat the guy that was minus 700. There's a lot of underdogs that are winning this season. I mean, like, what's that say?
It says if you're a degenerate gambler, the Contender Series is where you should be on Tuesday nights.
Good point. Good point. And then finally, I just wanted your thoughts on. So Saudi Arabia put $100 million into the PFL, and you know Saudi is putting a lot of money in golf, soccer, the Fury Tyson. I just wanted your thoughts on Saudi, you know, coming into global sports and putting money into it.
Yeah, they've also, you know, over the last I don't know how many years, dropped billions into their infrastructure there and creating, you know, a place where they want tourists, you know, trying to make it a destination for tourism. And, I mean, Las Vegas is a perfect example. Look at what's happened here since sports teams have landed here, and you know, they're making moves. They got probably more money than anywhere else in the world, and you know, I get it.
Hey, Dana.
Yep.
I want to read you a quote. Quote, UFC is a great company, but PFL is a great company. We do everything they do, and we do some things better. 1, we pay better, and 2, you're in control in the PFL. You're not under somebody's thumb. What you do inside the cage controls your future, end quote. That was from PFL CEO.
What was the end of it? What did it say?
What you do inside the cage controls your future. And
What
so
you do inside the cage can what?
controls your future.
Got it.
So that was from PFL CEO Don Davis. And so I don't know if you've heard that quote yet today, but I just was wondering what your initial thoughts were.
No. Well, there's one of two things in that. There's either a lot of delusion or he's uninformed. Almost everything in that statement is incorrect, except for what happens in the cage determines your future. I think that's the only right thing that he said. And you know what? Good for him. You know, get out there. Fucking, let's fire it up. Let's, you know, whatever. It's all good. Yeah, listen, I've said this before about the PFL. I have no beef with those guys. Those guys have always been stand-up guys and have always been classy when it comes to the business. You know, these guys are in this to compete with us. And I respect that.
And over here. We're halfway through the season 7 of the Contender Series. It seems like it's flown by. Are there any moments that have stood out to you thus far? And what do you make of this first half of the season?
What stands out to me so far in
First 5 episodes.
In the first 5, yeah. I think that, you know, if you look back at the history of the Contender Series and what we've built here, you know, a couple of world champions now, tons of top 15 guys and girls. And when we have the boards in the war room, you know, there's different colors. There's blue everywhere. Blue is Contender Series. So this show has been a monster feeder system for us and bringing in high quality talent. You know, everybody that comes in off this show has the ability to break into the top 10 or be a world champion. So it's one of the reasons that I love watching this every Tuesday. You know, tonight, I mean, I'm just looking at this page right here. We got Silva and Kevin. You got 10-2 versus 11-0. You know what I mean? These are the kind of guys that are coming in, and somebody's going to win. You know, and now it's Silva who's 11-2, and now he's going to face somebody in the UFC. So it's you know, these guys come right in. I mean, when you look at you know, Ribeiro in the last fight, this guy's 26 years old, and he's got 20 fights. He's got 20 fights right now with a 100% finish rate, and he is a monster. This guy comes in and goes for it. He could fight almost anybody right now in the top 15.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. And I want to piggyback on the France question. Do you think the France crowd and just that arena, everything, do you think they deserve a pay-per-view now after that event?
Absolutely.
Awesome. And after UFC 293, we have Noche UFC. Just want to get your thoughts on how excited you are to have that first Mexican independence event.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's why we're doing it. It wasn't planned. It wasn't scheduled. You know, I ripped the whole schedule around to make this thing happen, put pressure on the boys to build a card for that event. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And when you look at, you know, the question that was asked of me earlier about which girl is next, you know, that whole division is fun based off what happens that night between Grasso and Shevchenko. And there's a lot of different things that we can do based off the winner of that fight. So it's a good position to be in.
And I know last week you were talking about some possible locations and stuff. One of the fighters who won their contract last week said they heard something about Twin Cities. Is that confirmed? You guys are going to go to Twin Cities again?
What was the question?
One of the fighters mentioned that they might be fighting in Twin Cities. Is that confirmed that we're going there? That's what you're asking, correct?
Yeah, correct.
To fight where?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Yeah, no.
Thank you.
That's not correct.
Hey, Dana, just one quick one I want to ask you with the whole PFL Saudi Arabia thing that got brought up. You've always been, like, not taking shots at the PFL, but if Saudi Arabia decides to empty the bank, right, they've got essentially unlimited financial resources. This is just $100 million, but do you view them as a potential viable competitor if they decide we're going to open up the checkbook and we're going to try to be the UFC?
There's been plenty of people that have opened the checkbook, you know, to be a competitor. It's not about money. There's so many different, as I sit back and being in this for 23 years, and I watch everything that is done wrong, okay? And one of the big things he said in there, which is absolutely false, is that they pay more than the UFC, which is absolutely, positively not true. But I do see them waste unbelievable amounts of money. And you can only waste unbelievable amounts of money for so long, no matter how much money somebody has. It's just, if you go in the dictionary and look up the word business, okay? There's business, and then there's charities. I'm involved in both. I run a business, and I do lots of things for charity. Most of these other guys are all running charities, not businesses. And like I say, you can only do that for so long before it runs out and it ends. So we will see. You know, I've seen you guys, when you guys ask me these kind of questions, you ask me like this is the first time I've seen things like this, or the first time somebody with money was getting involved. It's about a lot more than money.
Kind of piggybacking off of the PFL talks, there was all these rumors of the PFL talking about purchasing Bellator, that Bellator was possibly up for sale. If they are, in fact, or were, in fact, up for sale, has the UFC expressed any interest in possibly buying out Bellator?
Why on God's green fucking earth would anybody buy Bellator? So when we were just talking about business and making the right moves and making right decisions, there's been lots of bad ones. Bellator would be one of the fucking biggest. Why anybody would buy Bellator is beside them. But, hey, what do I know? Let's sit back and see how this plays out. I'm excited.
Did you see the price point was $500 million for Bellator?
Did I say what?
There was a price point of $500 million for Bellator.
Bellator's $500 million? Awesome. Sounds like a steal. Sounds like a fucking steal. Buy that thing quick before who else does? Come on, you guys. This is fucking silly. Silly.
One follow-up. With the heavyweight division right now, would you say it's probably in the best place it's been in a few years? You got Pavlovich, Aspinall gone, the winner of Curtis Blades and Almeida. Like, do you think the top of the division's at the best is?
Yeah, I think right now, again, sitting here on a Tuesday night talking to you guys about this stuff, as you start to look at basically all, I mean, we had matchmaking today, and as you look at all the different divisions, there's a lot of exciting fights right now in all these divisions.
with matchmaking the top of the division.
Well, that's the thing that I was telling you guys last Tuesday, I think. You know, I was sitting there in matchmaking last week, and we're working. Actually, it wasn't matchmaking. We were looking at the schedule. We were looking at the schedule last week of where I wanted to go, where I didn't want to go, what fights, you know, this, that, and everything else. And we were like, holy shit. Every year we go, how do we beat this year? And then as you start looking into what's possible next year, it's absolutely fascinating. It's, you know, real life stories as they play out are better than any script you could ever write. And that's what makes the sport so awesome.
With matchmaking, like, you know, the next title fight, or like a contender fight, you know, with Pavlovich or Gane or Aspinall, like, obviously you're waiting to see what happens with Jones and Stipe, but, you know, there's this thing that John might retire, or they both might retire. Like, are you just waiting to see what happens with that before you match up a #1 contender fight?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You know, obviously the Sean O'Malley win is still fresh in everyone's minds, but I want to ask you about Aljamain Sterling, right? What are your thoughts about his run as a champion, just as a champion for the UFC? I mean, he kind of overcame some negative thoughts from other people and just outside noise.
What are my thoughts on? Yeah. As far as what?
And like all the negative criticism he received as a champion.
Negative criticism on him?
Everything he faced.
So here's the thing with Sterling. You know, I'll tell you my personal experience. So when you sit down with Aljamain one-on-one and, you know, you're whatever, he's a great guy. He's a great kid, very likable, everything else. Decisions he makes in public and things that he says in public do not make him the most popular guy on the roster. And it's the weirdest thing. I don't know if it's self-sabotage or what it is. You know, it's just, he always seems to say the wrong things, you know, in times when if he said even remotely close to the right things, people would love him. You know what I mean? I always say about the kid, kid's a good-looking kid. He's got a great physique. You know, you know, when you sit down with him one-on-one, he's a good kid. But in public, he can't help himself.
Would you have some advice for him, or?
No. I mean, listen, he's done pretty well without my advice. I mean, look at what the kid's accomplished. He's made a lot of money. And, you know, and you know how I feel about the whole me and Marab are friends, you know, bullshit. But, you know, I don't dislike Aljo. You know what I mean? Like I said, one-on-one, he's a good dude.
Thank you.
Good?
Real quick. Weeks ago, there was traction on it. I don't think I've heard anything since. I was curious if you had any updates on Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and anything like that.
No updates. Thanks.